All right, everybody. For today's critical thought, we're going to be discussing the idea of gunplay when it comes to first-person shooters in particular. Now, over this year, I've had a chance to play a lot of retro-inspired FPSs. Ion Maiden, Dusk, Bunker Punks, and I'm sure there's probably more out there. And gunplay is kind of, I don't know if this is akin to like the grognard level when it comes to war games, but it's still an essential part of defining the feel and general aesthetics of an FPS. Now, when it comes to gunplay, there's three key areas: the utility of the weapon, the aesthetics or feel of the weapon, and then how that weapon responds or the environment responds to it. Now, what's very interesting about gunplay is that it's not one of those things that is you must have all three or your game sucks. Typically, most developers will focus on two of the three and will do that really well. Also making sure that this lovely thing is there so you can hear me. But when it comes to it, the best ones will use all three, but ideally you want to have at least two. So the first one, the utility of the weapon, refers to the purpose or general use you're going to have of that weapon in your game. So, is the weapon going to have a unique function or special ability, such as the weapons in Bulletstorm, or Clive Barker's Undying with that dragon cannon thingy? But this can also extend to, is every weapon viable? One of the most popular options of FPSs, especially from the 90s, was your starting pistol was almost worthless. The second you get a shotgun or a machine gun or anything like that, you're never going to look at that pistol again unless you're in panic mode. But one of the things that we've seen from some of the better FPSs of the last 20 years has been having each weapon having a unique and well-defined purpose. Even something like Tron 2.0, which we play on the stream, that doesn't use traditional weapons, each weapon in that game has a specific function that's unique from one another. And this is why games that usually feature really good gunplay don't give you 37 pistols, 18 shotguns, 10 rocket launchers, stuff like that. Now, another major part of this is that each gun should be, from a gameplay perspective, distinct from one another. And they shouldn't kind of step on each other's toes in terms of utility. If my shotgun is a better mid-range weapon than my assault rifle, and my assault rifle is a better long-range weapon than my sniper rifle, that's kind of a big issue here. And you want to have each weapon essentially fulfill its own specific role or niche. Now, the second category is the aesthetics, and this refers to how the gun, again, will both look and sound when you're using it. This is one of the more interesting aspects because it refers to everything from how detailed the weapon is in your hands, can you apply skin mods, attachments, stuff like that, and even, of course, the sound. And sound designers and developers who have dealt with this obviously know that sound is a very big deal when it comes to first-person shooters, not only in terms of the ambient noise or being able to pick where things are coming from via sound, but how the gun will respond or behave when you're using it. There's a big difference between a gun sounding like this versus the ever-famous shotgun from Doom 2, that noise. By the way, folks, if you need me to do sound effects, please get in touch. But the guns themselves have to have that feel to them. And there are ways of kind of emulating, or I don't want to say faking, but maybe abstracting it for the game, such as having screen shake, being able to, again, have the sound be different based on where you're shooting the gun, such as whether you're in a room with a very high ceiling versus a very cramped corridor. And this is kind of like, if we want to get very specific or very nitpicky, this is that whole idea of, I guess, quote-unquote gun porn, where it's not just you using a gun. No, you have to watch the revolver open up, insert each bullet in meticulously, close it up, spin the barrel, cock the gun, prime it, and all that other crazy stuff. But this is where we get more, I don't want to say realism, because again, we can see this in arcade-based shooters, but this is when the guns kind of take on a personality of their own. And like I said, this can take a lot of work. And the games that will usually do this, it's either a on or off kind of thing. You're either going to go all in when it comes to aesthetics and design, or you're going to kind of downplay this in favor of the third option, and that is the reaction by the enemies and the environment. This is also probably the hardest of the three to do. This is where it's not just you shooting an enemy and they go, ah, and they die. No, you want a whole reaction. Whether it's that all those death gurgles you hear in FPSs, again, like Doom, or, limbs flying off, or everybody's favorite, ragdoll physics. But it's an idea that you're not just shooting cardboard or walls. You expect a response. And this is where we get to very much like the gibbing or that high extreme violence of games like Doom, Quake, Bulletstorm, and so on. But this can also involve the environment as well. El Gordo on our Discord linked me to Red Faction's Guerrilla, the remastered edition. And while there was an open world third-person shooter, unlike the first one, it had environment deformation. You can shoot or destroy a column that's holding up a building, and that whole building will topple down on someone. Even in the first game, you could use an endless supply of C4 to kind of blow open the walls and try to find stuff that way. But this is where you can start to get really creative with your weapons and how they can be used in the game. Like I just said, you can destroy walls, knock stuff over, even something as old school as the infamous red barrel that you shoot and it blows up would be an example of this. With enemies, again, this is also going to be dependent on the engine in your design. Because if you're dealing with if you're dealing with pixel style graphics, you can't exactly do deformation and things going off in every which way. But for developers who make use of more powerful engines, of course, anyone who uses the Unreal Engine, you can see very much how crazy things can get. You shoot the guy, the ragdoll takes effect, and they go flinging into the distance. I think I just knocked my own microphone off while doing that. That's great. But to begin to wrap things up, and hopefully you can still hear me. I know, I'll take this off and I'll just hold it for the rest of our thing here. 1 second. There we go. Here's some high quality production values for you folks. But to wrap things up for this critical thought, good gunplay is not just about one specific aspect, but several. And like I said, the best games tend to have at least 2 or 3 of them. If you only have one, it usually doesn't feel right, such as having the guns not really do anything, having a very basic look and feel to them, or the fact that enemies just topple over and that's about it. But the ones that do stand out, such as Doom 2016, Bulletstorm, and even stuff older like Painkiller, have all 3. But the thing is, you have to be really careful because it's not just about having high quality graphics. For instance, one of the things that just killed me when I played the original BioShock was I would take my shotgun, get close to an enemy, shoot them, and they just go like this. Ugh. And then you see their little health bar go from here to there. And that's not what you want to see when it comes to good gunplay. And typically, gunplay also tends to be more in pure first-person shooters than they are in role-playing shooters or first-person role-playing games, or however you want to distinguish it. But with that said, thank you so much for watching today's Critical Thought. If you know of really good FPSs that have great gunplay that I didn't mention, let me know in the comments below. But otherwise, check back for daily discussions on game design here, and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games, and hopefully I can keep my little microphone on for our next recording. Until next time, take care. Before we get to the credits, just want to give a quick shout out to the fans and supporters over on patreon.com/GWBycer. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check back around 10 Eastern for regular streaming. If you'd like to suggest games for me to cover or topics to talk about, let me know in the comments below. For a collection of my writings as well as weekly podcasts on design, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the Game Wisdom Patreon, you can find us on there on patreon.com/gwbycer. $1 will get you into our private Discord channel where we talk game topics and more. $5 will get you voting privileges for any major event, including the Saturday Night Grab Bag, Patreon-funded goals, and more. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoy more videos here on the Game Wisdom YouTube channel.